guys, and welcome back to In the Hot Seat with Emily Diala and Dr. Viviana Coles. I'm Emily, and this is Dr. Coles,
Hi,
and
guys.
we are happy that you're joining us back again today. So we are going to open up a new series today. This is going to be an entire series on pleasure and satisfaction.
Especially sexual satisfaction.
Yes.
Okay, so today let's focus in on what does pleasure mean?
Ooh,
How do you
fun.
experience pleasure as an individual? How can you experience it in a relationship? It's about.
I would start by saying one thing. First of all, the largest sex organ is. This should have been a challenge question.
Ooh, I gave it away.
Okay. The largest sex organ sits between your ears, and it is the brain. So pleasure is something that is interpreted. It's not something that's just an automatic reaction. So whether we're talking about emotional satisfaction or physical pleasure or sexual pleasure, a lot of that is processed through the brain and then interpreted as being something that's pleasurable or not.
So how that plays out in relationships is that you might have somebody who is really trying to make a pleasurable experience for their partner, but there are so many factors that will either inhibit or encourage their partner to actually experience it as pleasure.
So I think it's really important for people to identify what their inhibitors are and identify what their accelerators are.
And in layman's terms, that's turn-ons and turn-offs.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
So when we're talking about turn-ons, I think we can talk about it in terms of gender, but there are some that are just universal. Most of the time, turn-ons can be good hygiene.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I think that's really important to put out there. Good hygiene is probably never going to be a turn-off unless there's some sort of fetish involved. But for the most part, sexual pleasure and good hygiene go hand in hand. And that might look like wearing or not wearing a certain cologne or perfume.
Do you ever hear people say, like, oh, my husband looks so good in a suit, or I wish my wife would, wear the lingerie that she used to wear? I mean, men tend to be a bit more visual, so again, acknowledging where some of the gender differences are, not trying to pretend they don't exist.
And if we're going to take it back a notch, I would even just say wearing clothes that aren't torn.
Exactly.
I know that favorite hoodie or those favorite flannel pants.
But again, to reiterate something we talked about in a previous episode, it's not so much the visual that's in front of you, but to see your partner taking some time into consideration for themselves, that's attractive.
Picking up that stained t-shirt off of the floor versus grabbing the one that's freshly cleaned off of the closet, it doesn't take much effort, but it makes a difference because of the way it's interpreted by your partner.
And I think to that point, it's important to understand that pleasure is context dependent. I mean, what worked last night, if you didn't treat your partner very lovingly the whole day and then you do that exact same thing the next night, might not have the same effect. That's because I think for women especially, we talked about this before, that arousal starts to build long before you ever get into the bedroom. And
oftentimes it starts the minute after you orgasm.
Exactly.
So all of that counts as foreplay. And one of the hashtag challenges that we asked you, the hashtag hot seat challenge, was to tell us about what non-sexual foreplay you most enjoy. So check those out in the comments and in future episodes. But the other thing about pleasure is that for a lot of men, it is about the physical. It also has to do with the emotional. We can't rule that out for men in general. But the key is to finding out what balance I think your partner has.
I think it's important to acknowledge there are different kinds of arousal. So there's the cognitive or mental arousal, or is sex on your mental radar. There's the emotional or relational arousal. How are you feeling about yourself emotionally or relationally about your partner?
Would you be receptive to that if it were to come into the day?
And then of the physical arousal, which I think a lot of people are guilty of reducing sex down to just a physical, biological mechanism, something you do with your bodies, and we ignore everything else. So it's important.
And there's a lot of time where that's where that gender difference comes in, because there are a lot of women who expect to constantly be in a state of arousal. It's like that pilot light is on and it's on a low flame.
Right.
When the truth is, sometimes we just got to have the pilot light on, and then all of these other factors, like the positive relational interactions that you have, can really light things up.
And not always relying on your partner to turn your pilot light on. Thinking about how you can turn yourself on.
Absolutely. One of the things that we talk about, at least at Texas Relationship Therapy for sure, and I'm sure at Revive as well, is this idea that you have to put yourself in a mind space that allows you to be receptive to your partner's sexual advances. And
Right.
that might include, you know, dealing with stressors as they come. Knock them out. If you know that something is really on your brain, work it out. Get it
Right.
out on paper. Get it
Yeah.
out of here.
Good
because
sex
it's
is
all
exactly
connected.
good sex is usually about low stress and high arousal. I mean, I think that's where the magic happens.
So make sure that you're dealing with stress as it comes. That's definitely going to help you get together in the bedroom and have fireworks happen, much more likely than if you were to have it all congested
Right.
with the day's stressors, as well as all of the other factors of life that can go ahead and convolute those things.
So we have an exciting challenge for you guys today. So don't forget to use the hashtag HOTSEAT. That's HOTSEAT, hashtag HOTSEAT. And today I want you to think about, when do I take ownership over my sexuality?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
So when I take ownership over my sexuality, it looks like ...
Fill in the blank.
Put it in the comment section. We'll use it in future episodes, and we'll see you later.